Hello, BookTube. It's Friday morning. It's just closer to 9:30 than 9, I would think. I didn't look at the exact time. It's another sunny day here. It's showing as about 7 degrees, but I think it's actually warmer than that, and it will go up warmer. So, but stuck indoors again. Well, I don't really go out a whole lot anyway, so. But I'm here for another shelf tour. Now, I think this is shelf tour 13 and poetry shelf 14. I keep getting this wrong, but I correct it in the title at the bottom. Today, we got a little bit of mix of some newer poetry and older poetry. It's starting to get mixed up here now. Now, this is Clive James. I got a number of Clive James poetry. I don't have it all anymore. I don't know what happened. When I had to move, it was about 6 years ago, I guess, or 7. And I had to put what books I had left in storage. I sort of pared down a little bit. And they were put in storage. And for some reason, when I came into here 4 years ago, this past February, I just don't know what happened to some. They evaporated. I just don't know. And some of Clive James's poetry books did exactly that. And it's fiction. I don't know. I had everything that he wrote that was published, but I don't know. I've got all the essays still. I think I have all those. But anyway, let's get to the books. This is Angels over Elsinore, collected verse 2003 to 2008. And I do like Clive James. I like everything he writes. Basically, there's things he sometimes is very navel gazing in his memoirs, but they're funny. They're definitely worth reading. His essays and book reviews definitely are, and the poetry as well. This was one of his newer ones before he died. I think there's a few since this one, Sentenced to Life. I'm not sure if this has the Japanese, what was it called? There was one that he put out that's really, really good. It became very popular. Japanese Maple, yeah, that's in here. Because this one is... Well, it's all they're going to be all Picador, basically. This is even a third printing. I didn't even get a first of it. 2015. The other one, Angels over Elsinore, is Picador. That's a first. 2008. Yeah, I didn't even realize. I would have thought, because I think I even pre-ordered this when it came out. So I didn't even get a first of it. I didn't notice it. Another sort of newish one, Picador again, Nefertiti in the Flak Tower. This is a first, 2012. Here's Other Passports, poems 58 to 85. Pages are starting to, well, they're yellowing. Just say not even starting, they are yellowed. It's Jonathan Cape, this one. 1986. So it's typical paper doing that. Poem of the Year. Uh, 1983. First to that. And The Book of My Enemy. It's collected poetry, a collected verse, 1958 to 2003. So kind of weird on the page. Picador, 2003. Now this, he translated the Divine Comedy. And it's typical. That's the second occasion I order from Amazon. And I orders a hardcover, and I get a paperback. So I call them up. Oh, well, we have no more hardcovers. We'll refund you. Well, what do I do with the book? Keep it or donate it to someone. So I kept it. To be waiting, to be... I have not read this translation. I've actually not read all of the Divine Comedy, period. So it is something I've got to do someday. But I do want to replace this in hardcover and replace the other Clive James books that I've sort of lost somewhere along the way. Let's see here. Peter Levy, collected poems 55 to 75. He was an Oxford professor. There he is there. I don't think he's really that well known, but I just liked his turn of phrase. And I remember spending time with that when I got it, reading quite a bit. Slim book by Ruth Pittner, End of Drought. Again, same thing. I liked her turn of phrase. I liked the style. And this is... I keep forgetting. I'll go back to that in a second and tell you the publisher and the year. This is 1975. This one is Barry and Jenkins, 1975. She's also had out poems 1926 to 1966. Someone I've not heard of ever before. Going back to the Peter Levy, it is Anvil Press Poetry, 1984. It's a new edition, 1984, first published in 1976. Now comes a few volumes of Rudyard Kipling. Departmental Ditties and Other Verses, Methuen and Company, 26th edition. It's a bit sun on the spine, but I kind of like it. 1914, originally 1904. I do like a little ditty of his. And here's another copy. Different edition. Smaller. Later. Printing. It's Methuen and Company again. This is, and other verses. This is the 43rd edition in 1942. But nice blue buckram. And jackets there, so that's quite nice. And it's got a facsimile of his handwriting, or his writing on there. Yeah, handwriting. Okay. This is a nice little one. Hodder and Stoughton, 60 poems. Kind of like the design of it and the drawing on the front. Hodder and Stoughton, originally 39. This is the 15th impression, 1961. And that's just a smattering of poems. Now here is the definitive edition of Rudyard Kipling verse. It's sunned on the spine. Not very thick, is it? It's gilt top. Well, it's one of those India paper ones. This here is, in fact, 850 pages long. Look in here to see, it's Hodder and Stoughton, as I say. Published November 1912. Second impression of this edition appeared in December 1912. So if you want shelf space, collect India paper books, publications. This is a little interesting. It's really rough shaped, the jacket, as you can see. It's missing the top there, but it's the it was a princely sum of £1. Let me go to the title page to read it correctly. The 10 principal Upanishads, or Upanishads, Shans, I've heard it pronounced many ways, but I usually say Upanishads. It's put into English by Sri Purhit Swami and William Butler Yeats. That's a bit of an oddity, or to me it was an oddity, so I thought, yeah. Well, I would have bought it anyway, regardless. Faber and Faber, 1937. As I say, it's rough. Somebody that was a charity shop that, yeah, don't even go there putting stickers on things. I had to buy this. Just I've leafed through it, and there's it's called Poets Ranked by Beard Weight, the commemorative edition. It's not poetry per se, but it does mention poets, so I keep it on the poetry shelf. It's the Uxbridge Underwood, with commentary by Gilbert Alter Gilbert, preface by Jack Passion, World Beard Champion. There you go. Illustrations by Mahendra Singh. And, not bad. Illustrations. There's James Russell Lowe and Henry David Thoreau sporting his chin beard. John Greenleaf Whittier and Walt Whitman. Whittier there. It's just, yeah. Edible beards is a section. Diseases of the beard. Bearded acrobats. You get the picture. It was Skyhorse Publishing, 2011. Can't remember when it was supposed to have been first published, because it says it's a commemorative edition. I don't know. It's pre-war World War One, I believe. There's the back as well. This one's quite nice. A lot of good poetry in it. Cornwall, in verse, edited with an introduction by Peter Redgrove. You can see it's my makeshift bookmark is in there. Which is just a little thing from the library announcing poetry. Yeah, it's just a collection of poetry about Cornwall, which is very, very nice. It's Secker and Wardburg. Yeah, Secker and Wardburg, 1982. I Want to Go Home, Charlotte Mitchell, Poems Through a Day. I think this was just a freebie from somewhere. Souvenir Press, 1990, reprinted 1990. Yeah, nothing spectacular, but as I say, it's interesting. It's small enough. I would not throw that away because it doesn't take up much space. Unity of the Stream, Vernon Watkins. It's a nicely designed little book. Originally was $2.95, Gomer Press. When was that? 1978. And don't know anything about the poet, but I did like poetry. And here's another sort of compilation of new ones, an anthology of countryside poetry. It's newer. Oh, what's this in here? Got two people's previous owners' names in it by the looks of it. Oh, that's something of mine. Went to sort of, there was every Tuesday afternoon sort of a little concert. It's usually students, classical students that play piano or whatever in a church here, and I would sometimes go, and this is just sort of I must have had this with me reading, or bought it maybe that day, and it just tells of what was being played. What was being played that day? I don't think there's a date on it, so I can't remember when that was. Tuesday, lunchtime concert, Tuesday, 24th February 2015. Marisol Lee, violin, Maria Shangri-La, piano, Royal Academy of Music. And they played Gabriel Fauré. And Franz Waxman. There you go. And this one's actually selected and introduced by Diana Rigg, Mrs. Peel, from The Avengers, for those who remember. I'm talking the real Avengers, Steed and Mrs. Peel. Well, there were before them as well, but selected and introduced by Diana Rigg, wood engravings by Christopher Warmel. So yeah, nothing special here, nothing that you wouldn't expect, nothing scarce for poets or anything, but there you go, $2.99. Here's the Daily Telegraph, Dictionary of Tommy Songs and Slangs, 1914 to 1980. John Brophy and Eric Partridge. Introduction by Malcolm Brown. It's Frontline Books. 2008. And yeah, it's not all poetry. But there's enough poetry and song in here for me to keep it in the poetry section. Now here's an oddity. Well, it's an oddity now. It was something that was very, very big during the 19th century. It's an author called Philip James Bailey. I believe completely forgotten today. But he lived, I think, from the teens right up until. He must have been in his 90s when he died at the turn of the 20th century, I believe. This is an epic poem, as you can see. It's massive. It hasn't even been opened, so I haven't read it all. It's almost 800 pages for an epic poem, and it's an apocalyptic poem at that. And it was massively popular. Tennyson loved it and loved his writing and copied the style occasionally or all the time. I've read bits of it, and it's it would be a struggle now to read, I think, especially 800 pages of this. But I hope to get through it someday. It's from, again, that library, and I forget what it is. But it's got a name by somebody who's presented, John Eldred, September 1902. It could very well be a lot of prominent authors donated here. But this was £2. It's the hinge is it's starting to break. Just the webbing is showing a little bit. Did I say the name of it? Festus, it's called. A poem. This is the 50th anniversary edition, 1889, George Routledge and Sons. And they're supposed to, I guess that's, it's a bust of Philip James Bailey, a facsimile of his signature. But yeah, 19th century apocalyptic poem, epic poem. Saunders Lewis, collected poems, translated by Joseph P. Clancy. Where did I translate it from? Forget now. From Welsh. Oh, yeah, yeah. University of Wales Press, 1993. Originally published in Welsh in 1986. And, yeah, some good poems in there. And I wonder if this is Deluge of 1939, because there's that, where they flooded the town. I'm not sure if that's it there. It'll take me too long to locate. Oh, I'm running out of time here. Jonathan Swift, this is another of those Oxford Standard authors, Jonathan Swift. It's the larger size. It's the ones that I like. I would not say no to a complete set of these. But I've got a 3-volume Swift Poems Oxford, other Oxford one. And here's another one, Poems of John Milton. This one is edited by Helen Derbyshire, with translations of the Italian, Latin, and Greek poems from the Columbia University edition. This is 1958 with new material. Originally 1958. Yeah, okay. The Swift is Oxford University Press, 1967. So I think that's when it first came out as well. Edited by Herbert Davis. Next two are some letters. Selected letters of Rainier Maria Rilke. It's 1902 to 1926. Macmillan. Translated by R.F.C. Hull. 1947. Reprinted from the first edition, January 46. It's reprinted February 47. His letters are quite good. There was a Penguin set. They were called Little Black Books. I think there was like 80 of them. And one of them was Letters to a Young Poet, I think it was called. It's just a selection of some letters to a poet. I don't know if he's even he's not identified in there, so I don't know if I ever looked up to find out who he was. But they're just marvelous. They're just marvelous letters, and I dipped into these as well, and they're really good. It's just a selection though. And then here is the letters of Samuel Taylor Coleridge, edited and introduced by Kathleen Raine. Obviously, too, it's just a selection. And this is the Grey Walls Press, 1950. Interesting book plates in here. University of Leicester, Department of Adult Education, University Centre Library, Northampton. And it's got a place for Dewey number and a session number, but it's blank. And it says, from the Library of Albert John Alway, University College and University of Leicester, Head of Adult Education, 46 to 67. Vaughan, Professor Emeritus of Education. Professor Alway bequeathed his library to the Department of Adult Education at the University of Leicester. But they did not actually put them into the catalog. So, or at least this one wasn't. So, that's what I have there. So there ends, that should be shelf 14 of poetry. We've still got, because I got one of these big bookcases, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like there's eight shelves there to do. Plus there's there's about another 8. There's about another dozen. There's about another 12 shelves. There'll be another 12 videos or so to do for poetry. So for those who don't like poetry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry in many ways that you don't like poetry. But just skip over, obviously. You don't watch things that are not interesting to you. I will get to other books, but I'm determined to get done the poetry. But it'll be it will be probably into, or at least the end of the month, before I am at doing one a day. So I'll be back today with an essay and possibly another poem. Take care, BookTube. Bye.